Hello everyone, my name is Naoise Collins and this is my paper on Designing Contextually, an investigation of design-based research to promote situated Irish language identity through virtual reality. So I'm just going to begin with a quick intro and background to the work. So currently only 1.7% of the population in Ireland reported that they speak Irish daily outside the education system. So it's a minority language within Ireland. And this creates a significant challenge for adult Irish language learners who don't have access to a community of practice. So by community of practice, we mean a group of speakers who all identify as speaking the same language for the adult Irish language learners to be able to get practice at their skills and abilities at the language. So really quickly, I'm going to run through some of the key literature involved in this research. So first of all, we view language learning to be context dependent. So context dependent involves meaning making to occur between the context of the individual and their identity. So it's all about how you perceive the situation and the environment you're in and provides the meaning that puts the context and the words that you put to actions, tasks, and the context you're surrounded with. So with virtual reality, this involves immersion and presence. So presence is the idea of being able to suspend belief in the environment you're actually in and believe in the virtual environment by use of the clues and spatial ideas that they allow you to have. Thirdly, we examined designed experiences. So this is the way we construe games in this research. So it looks at the idea that by players having agency within the system of the game, it suddenly creates the game as a new context where players have the ability to actually influence the narrative of the gaming environment and the rule set. And finally, our methodology is a design-based research methodology. So this is the idea of picking a specific context where the research is going to be implemented. So in this case, it was adult Irish language learners. And then we actually implemented design interventions specifically for this group to investigate its findings. So now I'm going to talk about the learning and immersion of the environment. So these images surrounding you here are actually the virtual environment created. And as I mentioned previously, this was a design-based research methodology. So this has gone through several iterations of design. So this case study was the third iteration. So it's actually been influenced by previous cases and how this design has been implemented as it's moved forward. So you see here, one of the main interactions in terms of learning that we see is we implemented the social constructivist idea of scaffolding. So if you look in the bottom corner where you can see the text above the word, so that's the word Aráiste. And whenever a character picks up any object in this shopping environment, it gives the text and it gives an audio clue to tell them what they're picking up. You can also see in the first image how the character is giving them a thumbs up and it tells them well done in Irish when they get the task completed. So in this environment, the player walks around the shop and is told by characters in the shop, which you can see in the bottom left screen, and they give them tasks to interact with and they tell them to get several objects in the shop. The character then goes around the shop using this teleporting system that you see in the second image at the bottom there. And they're able to teleport around the shop and different sections of the shop and pick up the objects they're being asked for. And when they succeed at their task, they go up to the till, and the till counter tells them, well done, you've got the objects we're looking for. So in terms of immersion, we made sure to keep the layout of the shop similar to a real shopping environment. And this is things we found in previous case studies about how important it was for the learners to be actually able to locate themselves and feel like it was a real shop. And a lot of work was done with the bag you can see in the bottom corner as well. So in previous case studies, when characters put objects into the bag, then they disappear like in a traditional game, except in a virtual reality environment, it's very different. And all the objects now in this iteration had gravity and were able to fall out the bag. Even you see that image of the oranges, all the oranges could roll around the shop, etc., etc. So this kind of gave the illusion of presence, and this is how the main learning occurred in the environment. So it was really a task-based environment whereby learners learned the language through engaging with specific language tasks in an immersive language learning environment. So the methodology involved a primary school teaching college where all the students within the college had to learn Irish as a language. So they're all above 18 from this group in the college. And it was a localized context. So what we decided to do, so the experimental design allowed the participants to have 3 interactions with the virtual reality environment. And before this, they engaged with a vocabulary pretest and Zoltan Dornay's L2 motivational self-system questionnaire. So this questionnaire was key to the research, and it investigates the ideal L2 self. So this is the idea of your motivational self, of your ideal self, who you could see yourself becoming in the future. And we believe virtual reality, through its ability to create imaginary context, allows learners to see themselves as being able to succeed in a language through the scaffolding we showed you previously. So when they engage with these tasks we showed you and they succeed at them, they can visualize themselves becoming language learners in the future. So then the experiment itself unfolded, whereby participants first performed in a training exercise before the main study. Now, this training exercise had nothing to do with the context of Irish language, but it was only to show them the main interactions for VR, because for most participants it was their first time interacting with VR. So they were shown how to teleport, how to move, how to pick up objects. And then they engaged with the Gaeltech VR experience for three times over a period of 6 weeks. Finally, in the post-test questionnaire, they had a post-test of the motivational questionnaire again and the post-test vocabulary questionnaire, followed by a simulation sickness questionnaire, a presence questionnaire, and there was debriefing sessions that were kind of organized into focus groups, whereby students gave qualitative feedback to how the experience went for them. So our main findings was there was an increase in the L2 self, which was the goal of the design intervention, followed by a 20% increase in vocabulary retention, followed by a decrease in Irish language anxiety, and followed by an increase in linguistic self-confidence. So this follows a lot of other studies into gaming technology that anxiety and self-confidence can increase through these studies. But one of our main findings showed that this ideal to self, or this idea of being able to visualize yourself as a motivated learner in the future, was improved by engaging with the virtual environment. So other findings included were that after repeated interactions, so after every interaction with the game, the participants were measured on their presence scores, and these increased after each interaction. So we found that presence actually increased as the participants became more familiar with the control scheme and how the interactions in the virtual environment worked. So in terms of a conclusion, task-based VR games have the ability to increase the IL2 self among participants, and there was also a 21% increase in vocabulary retention after engaging with the game. So there's future work is required with larger participant groups in order to increase the statistical power of the study. So this was a small-scale study, and it was difficult within VR as everything is one-to-one, and there needed to be a lot of there was safety concerns and ethical considerations to include, as well as the cost of the environment itself to actually include a bit larger sizes. But we think it's really important and critical in future work to get bigger sizes to be able to see if this same conclusion is drawn with bigger statistical groups. So thanks very much, and I'm looking forward to hearing everyone's feedback in the study, in the conference itself.